almost 5:10. Not quite. I think I'm about a minute early. And I think I mentioned this yesterday. I'm having blog trouble. I have two blogs. I post the same thing. One I've had for uh, maybe getting close to 25 years. Um, and I prefer to write there just out of familiarity. Um, I like the way it's set up. And then I have another one that I started 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, because supposedly it was easier to get monetized. Um, however, um, that was my original blog was an e-blogger, is an e-blogger, um, and the other one is WordPress. WordPress has always given me trouble, and I don't like the setup. It's got a lot of spam, and I pay money for it. So I think I'm going to be done with it, and I'm going to return 100% to eBlogger. That means I'm going to lose some readers, some people who show up to read my stuff. It is what it is. You got to go. You got to go where life takes you. So I'm on my old blog, looking at what to read today, and I think I've settled on reading about tree stumps, or a tree stump in particular, at least. Sorry, I gotta say hi to my cat. And I'm writing myself a note. The note isn't to say hi to my cat. The note is just a little thing that occurred to me that I might want to write about tomorrow, which is why I have notebooks all over the place in every room, or notepads, so that when inspiration gives you that little hint, you don't want to lose it. And in that action, you're setting the intent for inspiration to find you. It's very important to consider if you want to be any kind of an artist, is you cultivate your art even away from the keyboards, even away from the canvas or the sculpting clay or the guitar or piano or whatever. You stay within that intent. You stay connected. Always receiving inspiration wherever you find it, however it appears, and it might come in odd places. You just never know. So having notebooks around, even if something comes, it keeps me in that connection. It keeps me in that intent that I know inspiration is there. It's also, for me, important to have, this is my writing room. Now, of course, I do other stuff here as well, but I know this is where I come in the morning. I show up every morning at 4 o'clock and I write. So when I sit here, I'm literally transformed. I'm a writer. Whatever I was before, when I sit in my chair, when I'm at my desk, everything drops away. I'm here to receive. Inspiration always finds me. I think I told this story yesterday. Somerset Maugham, the great English novelist and playwright, was interviewed by a group of creative writing students. And they asked him, is it more important to write when you're inspired or by appointment? And he said, it is always better to write by inspiration. But fortunately, inspiration finds me at my desk every morning at 9 a.m. My friend Elise is here. Always appreciate that. And my friend, it is what it is, Lewis is here. Hey, Eric, just for your information, Sister Destiny posted those videos about fasting just for you on her page. I just replied, and I have it up, and I will be watching it either before bed or first thing in the morning. Always interested in new information, always interested in the information that Destiny has to pass on, because she's a font of wisdom. And it's not often I get to use the word font. unless I'm talking about typing. Um, but she really is. She's just so much wisdom and so much inspiration. And let's see. Elise says, "What do you say to people who have a hard time with discipline?" Um, I say, forget about it then. Align yourself with joy. I'm always told what a disciplined person I am. I was just talking, my friend, uh, Noble Scrolling Traveler has his channel, and I try to go to his live sessions and support him when I can. And he asked me my favorite, what's my favorite meal, what's my favorite type of food, and I told him how boring I am. I eat the same thing every day at the same time every day, pretty much, the exception of the occasional Sunday pancakes. Um, and my entire life doing stuff like that, people have said you're so disciplined. Has absolutely nothing to do with discipline. I'm the laziest person in the world, which is why I eat the same thing every day. I don't want to think about anything like that. It's only partially true. Um, when you are aligned with joy, you're aligned with intent. It is better to live intentionally than by discipline. And of course, I say all this only as my opinion. Um, I don't have, you know, any desire to tell someone this is how you should live your life. Um, I wanted to write, and for a long time, all through the early 90s, all through the 80s, I would write a big creative streak, and then I would go for weeks and months, sometimes a year at a time, not writing anything, feeling sort of down, a little depressed that I was unable to write. And I'd say, well, I'm not inspired. And then I would fall into that, what every writer does when they can't write, they drink, um, which only worsens the effect. And it was only when I read a wonderful book, Stephen Pressfield. I actually wrote about it, and I read that blog post the other day. Um, The War of Art, which is, of course, a play on the title, The Art of War. And it is simply, he calls it turning professional. Turning professional has absolutely nothing to do with getting paid. It's a mindset that a writer writes every day. It doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to be 100 words. It doesn't have to be 3 words. It just has to be words on a page or words on a screen. A painter paints every day. A sculptor sculpts. And you do it because you love it. And you don't wait for inspiration. You invoke inspiration. You know that inspiration is always present. The word inspiration, in spirit, in breath, literally means in breath. How can you be without breath? So how can you be without inspiration? Look out the window, and whatever you see is there to be written about, is there to be painted. Open up a book, thumb through it, wherever it lands, look at a word, it's something to write about. Everything is something to write about. The problem is our self-judgment. This isn't good enough. I can do better. I used to be better. I want to say get rid of it, but I know that thoughts like that, you don't get rid of. They just play through the mind. So don't take them seriously. Smile at them. There's that old voice telling me I'm not good enough. There's that old voice that says this isn't good. That's all it is. It's a pattern replaying. And it's not even you, and it's not even your words. It's the words of classmates, of childhood friends, of teachers, of clergy, of all kinds of people who at some time in your life told you you weren't good enough, and unfortunately, you believed them. That's what's playing in your head. So you ignore it. You forgive it. You forgive them. And you sit down and you do the thing that you really love doing. You do the thing that you really want to do. You do the thing that you're aligned with. And it just starts falling into place. Um, of course, people say, well, you're disciplined. You turn to a vegan. You exercise every day. I absolutely love doing all that. Nothing to do with discipline. I literally want to do it. And on those rare occasions when I wake up and I'm like, man, I don't want to work out, it doesn't happen often. I just remind myself, once you start, you're going to love it. You're going to fall in love with it all over again. And I always do. Um, Elise says, I love that. Uh, it's better to live with joy than intentionally. Your discipline is admirable. Correction, your joy. Thank you. And it really is joy. And also remember, um, intent. Intent is an actual thing that we connect to. It's a field. It's a field of energy. It's like prana. It's a form of prana. So think of joy as being intent that you tap into and it carries you. You don't have to do it. You don't have to do anything. You literally don't really do anything. Things just get done. It's the lesson from both the Bhagavad Gita and the Tao Te Ching. Um, there's no doer, yet things get done. Surrender to that. Um, Before I read my blog, um, let's go on over here. And I read this often. Yesterday, I talked about the four paths of yoga. I'm not going to reiterate that um, because I end up getting carried away. I meant to read my blog yesterday and first thing, and I ended up talking for like 45 minutes before I got around to it. So I won't reiterate the four paths, but I'm going to add a path to it. This is one of the lesser known paths. Nisargadatta Maharishi, he was the author of I Am That. He's was a great sage. He passed away in 1980, I believe. Indian. And his whole message is residing in the I am. I am is what precedes everything. It's who we are. It's what we are. Before anything is I am. When in the Psalms, be still and know I am. When Moses was on the mountain and he asked the burning bush, who should I say gave me these commandments? And the voice said, I am that I am. I am is simply I am, beingness, truth. Everything that proceeds after that is just a version of I am. Anyway, that was his message. And he taught what he called Niskara yoga, which means natural yoga. And I absolutely love it. And if people were to say to me, so what type of yogi are you? I'm really tempted to say I'm a Niskara yogi because here, I pulled it up. Let's see. And it really is it's the yogic path of joy. Here are the 7 principles: non-identification and right understanding, interest and earnestness. Here's my favorite part: spontaneity and effortlessness, attentiveness to being, right action, going within to go beyond, awareness of self. But spontaneity and effortlessness, that trumps discipline every single time. Because sooner or later your discipline runs out and then you punish yourself. Man, I can't believe I skipped today. But spontaneity and effortlessness, it never disappoints you. It's simply being curious in life. What happens if you show up and write today? What would show up? What is there to write about? What's going to appear to me? Whatever it is you want to do, be curious about it. How is it going to unfold today? Because you really don't know. And stay in that stay in that mindset of don't know, the I don't know. In Korean Zen, they call it the don't know mind. Uh, Stay there because you don't have to know. Is this going to work out? I don't know. But you know what? I'm really curious to see what happens, to see if it does. That's interest and earnestness. It's also spontaneity and effortlessness. Let's see. Here's how Nisargadatta described living a life of Niskara Yoga, defined by living a life with harmlessness, friendliness, interest, and abiding in spontaneous awareness while being conscious of effortless living. And the thing is, you read that and you think, I want that, I want to do that. You already are. It's already there. It's already present. You don't have to make an effort to be effortlessness. You don't have to make an effort to be spontaneous, because then it wouldn't be spontaneous. You live it. You express it. You be it. More importantly, you are it now, because that I am from which all of this stems from, is who you are, ever present. You can't step away from it. So, having said all that, I'm going to read from my blog. And I think I settled on tree stump. But maybe I won't. I think instead I'm going to read about rhizomatic. Rhizomatic is a word that I learned back, I guess this was in December, reading a wonderful book called The Flower and the Wand, which is about re-invoking the feminine sacredness of life, which would be the Shakti, the feminine creative energy that we are part of. When it merges with the sacred male energy, Shiva, and Shiva Shakti becomes life. We could also yin and yang from the Tao Te Ching. So I was going to read about stumps because I absolutely love stumps. You see a tree stump and you see a complete story. You see a story from a previous tree to a seed to a sapling, growing, becoming a full tree, living a complete life, and eventually whatever it is that fell it. But the tree stump story isn't over just because it fell. It is actually nourished by the trees around it until it finally decomposes, giving itself back to the earth, back to the forest. Continuous, never ending. That's the true cycle of life. Charles Darwin, who evolution, survival of the fittest, actually had another expression, the survival of the friendliness, the survival of kindness, of the kindest, that it is those who work together, work in community, connected. That's the one that's going to evolve, because there's always someone fitter. But when you work with somebody, it's a game changer. So that's tree stump, but that's for another day. Obviously, my path of effortlessness and curiosity and joy and spontaneity has nothing to do with sticking to one subject for any great length of time. But rhizomatic, it's a beautiful word. It might not sound beautiful at first, but as the meaning starts to sink in, there's rhizomatic plants, the entanglements of roots, and that's where the word springs from. Hopefully it'll be explained as I read. So this is my blog from December 12th, 2023. So just a few months ago, actually. Rhizomatic. It's a new word for me, rhizomatic, and it pertains to a network that connects one point to any other point, nonlinear, having multiple points of entrance and exits. There is little of this concept that I understand right now. It's too fresh for me to deeply comprehend, yet it resonates. There's a feeling here that it somehow relates to writing, how at any point of my words connect me to not just the finish, but new starting points as well. The phrase reminds me that I'm connected to a similar entanglement of words and ideas in silence, all points within the mind that can be entered or left at any moment. They're always present, being rhizomatic to the writer. In the process of discovering this word, exploring the concept, and there's a sudden invitation to begin writing. It doesn't matter that I'm not familiar with the word. It's an entry point. And instantly I find that there's an entire world to explore here. One idea connected to every other idea in existence, all belonging to an infinite field of inspiration. I can start at any point. Ideas will find me, and writing flows completely on its own, rhizomatically, spreading from the original entrance point to the entire field. Everything's connected as an idea, even the writer. So truly, there's no finishing point, no final word written. It's just a temporary exit, imaginary really, as that connection can never be severed. It's a rhizomatic field, an open invitation, and every single idea given will lead me back here, to this ever-present flow of inspiration, and my writing then continues, always. That was rhizomatic. This is from my original blog before I edited it. As I said, my other blog that I was trying to present more professionally is out of whack again. I think I'm going to get rid of it and just work with this one. This is the one that I've kept for, again, 25 years. But talking with Elise, and that's why I decided to read Rhizomatic. You're already connected to your inspiration. So you just jump in. Every point is your starting point. Every point along the way. You don't even need to worry about, am I ready? Is this ready? Whatever. You jump in because it's rhizomatically connected. That's the whole meaning of the word rhizomatic, is it's a network that has multiple nonlinear points of entrances and exits. Everyone leads to the other continuously. So all of life is rhizomatic. Every life is connected to every other point of life. It's not separate in any possible way. So dive in. What is it you want to do? Dive in. Who was it who said something about ideas being bold? I don't recall. Van Gogh? Am I pronouncing his last name? I mess up every name that I say, including my own. Anyway, here it is. This is just a snippet. Whatever you do or dream you can do, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. You can substitute the word boldness, spontaneity. Whatever you do or dream you can do, begin it now. Spontaneity has genius, power, and magic in it. Or effortlessness. Whatever you do or dream you can do, begin it. Boldness or effortlessness has genius, power, and magic in it. That's rhizomatic. Any of those words can, any word replacing boldness, and it still comes out the same. So give up the thought of discipline. Discipline is developed through joy. or the appearance of discipline. Because, like I said, everyone always says, Eric, you're so disciplined, but I've let everyone in on the secret. It's just an appearance. I'm having too much fun for it to actually be discipline. Um, you make your work joy, whatever that work might be. That man, I know. It's not always easy. Um, I met Elise working at the vitamin shop, and it wasn't a bad job. And I had some lucky breaks at the vitamin shop. I was getting paid a manager's hourly rate without having to do any of the managing work, and I can come and go as I please. I don't know how I lucked in to being able to do that, but they liked having me there. The people in upper management, for whatever reason, had my back. Um, but at the same time, it was, and again, it's not like I didn't like it, but it wasn't my path. It wasn't my dharma. It wasn't what I was meant to be doing. And um, when the opportunity came to not do it, I jumped in. I saw an opportunity where I felt I would could be more creative. Elise says, "Beautiful, my friend. Thank you. I love, that's the point in reading that. I came across that word, rhizomatic. I just read a little bit about it in that book. I didn't know anything about it, but I dove in and started writing about it. And as I wrote, I learned about it. The things came to me that I needed in order to write about being rhizomatic. The other thing I was going to read was another word that was relatively new to me. And I wrote that in December as well. Animacy. Animacy is a beautiful word. It's a grammatical distinction. Elise says, "You're right. That is how I started my artistic journey. I dove in. Sometimes you have to, because if you keep taking those hesitant steps, I'll do this when I'm ready, that I need to research everything, you lose the magic. The magic is you jumping in. And I'm not saying jumping in means you're unprepared, but you can learn what you need as you're doing it. Jumping in is going to mean something different each and every time. So, again, don't think don't think that I'm giving advice and you go out and you quit your job and then you say, but you said the magic would happen. It does every single time, but it's different every single time. Listen to your intuition. Be willing to be guided. At the same time, don't be hesitant for the sake of hesitation. Don't be hesitant for the sake of safety, because nothing is safe. Absolutely nothing is safe. There's the illusion, the appearance of safety. That's not the same thing. Do you want to live a life in illusions, or do you want to wake up? Do you want to live a life of wakefulness? Big difference. Being wakeful means you see the whole picture, that you might suffer, that it might suck sometimes. It's all part of the journey. You don't mind the suck when the overall package is one of joy. To me, I think that might be the great secret of life. And this is what Buddha would say would be the difference. Life sucks. Don't add suffering into the mix. And what he would mean by that, and it's the same with yogic psychology as Buddhist psychology, is life is hard, life is difficult, you're going to lose some loved ones, you are going to have a whole series of losses through your life. Life is a series of loss. You lose your youth, your hair, your innocence, whatever. I didn't really lose my innocence. Um, but you lose a lot through life. When you accept that life is change and it has its ups and downs, then you don't really suffer. Suffering is when we cling to that which we had or we want, but isn't here any longer or never has been in here. So when you're grieving, don't push the grief away. Grieve with all your heart. You lost something important, something that you cherish. You have every right to grieve. And when someone says you'll get over this, they mean well, but it means absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing at all. So, that was rhizomatic. Maybe tomorrow I'll read the tree stump. This is, again, I'm looking at 25 years of writing every single day, not missing a day. Even when I was doing a 24-hour race or 100-mile race, I would text myself. Something would occur to me, just a couple lines. And it really only has to be a line that you like. You put it down or carry a notebook with you. But it has to be yours, whatever it is. So here's my question. Elise, what's the plan? What are we going to do? Here's, I wrote this November 28th, 2023. Another word that was unfamiliar with me at one point, kenosis. And I tied it into mantra meditation. Kenosis being, it's from the contemplative tradition in Christianity. The word implies a prayerful plea of emptying ourselves of control by ego. Maybe I'll read this because it deals with effortlessness as well. Elise says, we're going to get started. I'm inspired. Awesome. So I'm going to do a rare double blog reading since I'm scrolling through here. And since it's a relatively quiet night, which is good as well. Quiet night means I'm always happy when people join in. I always appreciate it. And intentionally sending out invitations to anyone who just might need to be here for whatever reason. Positive word, positive thought, sharing some ideas. But it's also good to sit here with my good friend Elise and just talk. So, kenosis. At least this sort of pertains to what we've been talking about through the night. The mantra is always my surrender. Each return to thinking its subtle sound empties me a little more of every previous conception of my role in meditation. It's the mantra that does the work here, acting as a form of kenosis, my own small will let go so that something entirely more powerful plays through. As I continuously come back to the mantra, no matter how many times my thoughts might lead me astray, a great silence eventually prevails, and that is my surrender. I love the term kenosis, being from the contemplative tradition of Christianity, but universal in its meaning. The word implies a prayerful plea of emptying ourselves of control by ego and to be filled by God's divine will, our actions now guided by a touch of grace that steers us through life's hardships. My meditation is a natural kenosis, with the mantra being a vibrational prayer that leads me ever deeper to my own self-surrender, an always present field of grace and silence. The great truth of kenosis is that I'm already empty of any sense of the permanent self. Only my beliefs in its reality linger slightly. I return to ego form that plays a certain role in my everyday life. My mantra carries me past this role, a kenosis revealing myself as capacity for life to play through. It's a self-answering prayer, already granted, even as I think my mantra. So I sort of relate that to what we were talking about, emptying ourselves of ourselves, kenosis, emptying our small self, our ego-driven self, that everything has to be a certain way, that little ego self is in control of everything. What a grand illusion that is, because it isn't in control of anything. In reality, it doesn't even exist. It's a figment, an illusory ghost in the machine. I was making little ghostly figures off camera. And it thinks it's calling the shots. But when you see through it, you see that you are guided by grace, guided by a touch of grace that steers us through life's hardships. That it leads you to a greater, to a self-surrender, an already present field of grace and silence. Hey, our friend Odom is here. Hey, just a Yogi doing burpees in his basement. How are you, Odom? And how is the garden? Dawn People is here. Hello, my friend. Pleasant Wednesday to everyone. Thank you. And pleasant Wednesday to you as well. I'm reading some blog posts from late last year on words that I didn't know until I started writing about them. Words that caught my interest. One word was kenosis, which is from the Christian contemplative practice. The other word was rhizomatic. Maybe Odom might be familiar with the word rhizomatic from rhizomatic plants. Let's see. Elise says, yes, I totally connect to what you're saying, especially when we see we are guided by grace. And she says, hey, everyone, I'm going to give us a quote from Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Odom says that he's good. Garden good. Wish my peaches would flower. When do they normally flower? So, I was saying Patanjali. This is from the Yoga Sutras, which an ancient yogic text. And at least, again, this pertains to what we've been talking about. Lisa's saying hi to everyone. So this is written about 2,000 years or so. When you are inspired by some great purpose, some extraordinary project, all your thoughts break their bonds. Your mind transcends limitations. Your consciousness expands in every direction, and you find yourself in a new, great, wonderful world. Dormant forces, faculties, and talents become alive, and you discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you ever dreamed yourself to be. That's really important to consider when you're seeking to expand your world, when you're trying to manifest something, when you're starting a new forces. that some extraordinary project, at least, let's see. Odom says, before they leave out, but already has leaves now. Huh. Well, hopefully soon. So you're certainly thinking of an extraordinary project, at least. I would say that Odom's homestead is living an extraordinary project. His homestead, his garden. Some extraordinary project. All your thoughts break their bonds. Your mind transcends limitations. Your consciousness expands in new every direction. And you find yourself in a new, great, and wonderful world. Here's my favorite part. Dormant forces, faculties, and talents become alive, and you discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you ever dreamed yourself to be. Trust those dormant forces. You're not working alone. You're working with the entire universe. You're working as the entire universe. Literally. If you put your hands up to the sky, I love doing it at night or earlier in the morning. It becomes a form of prayer. Is there any point where you see your hands end and the universe begins, or the universe ends and your hands begin? Or is it just a seamless stream of universe itself, touching down through and as you, that you are literally just an expression of the universe, the infinite trickle down into finite form? You're never doing anything alone. Stuart Gallagher is here. Thank you, Yogi. Needed that. I think we all do, Stuart. You know, we need to remind ourselves that dormant forces. Here's one of my favorite things. Odom's heard me talk about this before. In the Talmud, it says, above every blade of grass, there's an angel whispering, grow. Above every blade of grass. Now imagine how many angels are whispering over us. Grow. Expand. I like to think that the beginning of the universe, that singularity of existence, that singularity of infinite energy compressed into a point smaller than the smallest particle, had absolutely no reason to expand. There was no such thing as time or space. None. So why should it do anything? Something whispered. We can only liken it to the voice of God. And it said, expand. And with a whoosh, the universe became, creating time and space along with it as it was needed. So if that little singularity of existence from which we came from can create time and space as it's needed, we have all the time and space that we need. But we have a finite amount of time in this form. Personally, I believe we have an infinite amount of time, or actually beyond time, in a formless state. But in this form, we work with the tools we're given. So that's why when they said boldness has power and magic to it, act now. Don't be afraid to make a mistake. Really, what's a mistake other than feedback? It's what you do with it. Let's see. Have you guys ever read The Alchemist? Wonderful little book. Could read it in a day. One of my favorite lines from The Alchemist. When you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it. The reason for that is, remember, we were literally created from that singularity of existence. The entire universe. We came into beingness from that singularity. Or we existed before the singularity as the absolute itself. Either way, we got a whole lot of creative energy behind us. A whole lot of possibilities, a whole lot of potentiality. Lee says, you let me borrow that book, The Alchemist, years ago? Yeah, it's a wonderful story. There's always been talk of making a movie out of it, but they never have. I think the problem is they would change it so much, it would lose some of the magic. Our friend Destiny Forever Walks, PhD, is here. Hello, Eric. Hello, Destiny. I'm taking my magic supplement. This is melatonin and ashwagandha, Ayurvedic herb. Take it before bed. It's really helped my sleep hygiene. Part of the process. Hey, at least if you get a chance, really spend some time on Destiny's channel, just to get the sense to see what she created and how she works with it. But most importantly, and she hears me say this every single day, most importantly is see how much joy she brings to it, how much joy she brings to her creation. Man, I really think that's the great secret of manifestation, is how much joy you bring to the project. That's what unleashes those dormant forces that Patanjali was talking about. So since I'm pulling up quotes, have you guys ever read Illusions by Richard Bach? The subtitle is Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah. I think I might have read Illusions in 1978. One of those magical books that gave cause for me to become re-enchanted with the world. Let's see. Got some hellos, and Elise says, hello, Destiny Forever Walks. I look forward to checking out your channel. And Destiny says, Eric, I tagged you in 3 of my fasting videos a few minutes ago. Awesome. I saw one, and I actually have it queued up. And it is going to be my morning watch as I break my fast tomorrow. And I'm looking forward to that. So I will definitely also queue up the others as well. So I will have them on hand. You know what? 13's a funny age. I was 13 in 1978. Let everyone know how old I actually am. And at 13, you start putting the magic of the world behind you. You're ready to be, a teenager. You're ready for all that stuff. You're ready for dating. You're ready for looking forward to eventually getting a job. You want to be taken sort of seriously at 13. You're putting, childhood behind you. And when you put childhood behind you, you start to lose a little bit of the magic, which I certainly was. 13 was a little bit of an awkward year for me. Between the ages of 13 and 50 something, that was an awkward stage. an awkward stage in my life. Um, I'm only sort of half joking. I think, you know what, hitting my 50s, it's when things began to settle a bit. I came truly more into my own because I was more willing to give things up, to surrender things, to simply let things be. No longer had to be in charge of everything. There's certainly a lot of positive things of getting older and letting go. Learning to let go is certainly one of the big ones. Um, so an example um, is a story told by Anthony DeMello. At least says 13 to 50. Yeah, it was an awkward stage, that span of time. Um, Destiny said, welcome in everyone, and thanks for joining. Just Yogi doing burpees in his basement. Thanks for coming. Thank you, Destiny. Yes, Anthony DeMello. Was a great Jesuit priest, East Indian. So he was steeped in yogic and Buddhist and Muslim faith, spirituality, but his path was Jesus. But he was open to everything, and he was truly, truly awakened. And he told a story of once when we were young, we looked into the sky and we saw these magical feathered winged creatures soaring through the air, and we could never get tired of looking at them. How they were just pure grace and magic. And then someone came up to us, a well-meaning adult, and said, "Oh, it's a sparrow," and walked away. From then on, we no longer saw the magic. We simply saw a sparrow. It had a name. Sparrow. I've seen him before. We shrugged. Go about our business. That's when we start to that's when we become delusioned. We stop believing in the magic. At 13, I had the good fortune again of reading Richard Bach's book, Illusions, and it reawakened. It re-enchanted me. I began to believe in magic again. And I knew that, unfortunately for my parents' sake, I was not going to be normal. And I never was. And I'm certainly glad I found that book, or that book found me, is a better way of saying it. The right book almost always has a way of finding us. Destiny says, please, as you come in, like and share out the host amazing channel. Thank you. Please give a host a thumbprint. Appreciate that. And this time you definitely beat me to it. Elise says, we'll do Destiny Forever Walks, PhD. We'll hit the like button. And thanks for the welcome. Here's a quote from Richard Bach from Illusions. I am tired of clinging, though I cannot see it with my eyes. I trust that the current knows where it's going. Faith, trust. Trust in the unseen things. Trust in that angel that is hovering over you, whispering, grow. Some might remember Richard Bach as having written Jonathan Livingston Seagull. Which is another wonderful book that you could read literally in an hour. But Illusions has the magic for me as well. I think one of his most famous quotes, I exist to live my life in a way that will make me happy. What the caterpillar calls the end of the world, the master calls a butterfly. A professional writer is an amateur who didn't quit. Your only obligation in any lifetime is to be true to yourself. It's a pretty important statement in such a small book. Your only obligation in any lifetime is to be true to yourself. I would add, the obligation is to find out who you truly are and live your life from there. That's the whole process of self-inquiry, which is the yogic path, jhana yoga, the path of knowledge. A lot of times people think the path of knowledge, that means I need to study. I need to study all the ancient scriptures. I need to talk to the great wisdom leaders of all the traditions. That is certainly a way to gain information, and information is very important. But jhana yoga, the true path of knowledge, and some might say the only knowledge that really matters, is the knowledge of knowing who you truly are. If you believe that you are this little self, that you're this ego, that you are bound by the laws of what society tells you you should be and should do, then you're living a life of illusions. But through self-inquiry, continuously asking yourselves, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? And never settling on a single answer. Then you come to reality and you live your life from there. And that is the path of Niskara Yoga that Elise and I were talking about, where you are living with spontaneity, effortlessness. Let's see. Destiny says, Odom, you're growing so many wonderful plants and trees. An amazing garden. I always, man, I can't help thinking of Odom is everything I talk about. Your only obligation in any lifetime is to be true to yourself. And I can't help but think Odom in his garden. That's when he's his truest self, when he's in his garden. You lose that separate sense of self. It isn't Odom the gardener, it's Odom in his element, part of everything. That's the thing that I read today, Rhizomatic, where everything is a network, that I think of Odom as being part of that network. And I think the best gardeners are. I think the best gardeners are those who see themselves, even on a subconscious level, they see themselves in the plants. They see themselves growing. They see the angel above each plant whispering grow, and they smile. So, yeah, it was a rare occurrence that I read 2 blog posts in a row. And all of them really were sort of connected in a rhizomatic way. I'm looking at what I might read tomorrow about why I wake up. Here, this was written in December 14th, why I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. 3 o'clock in the morning now would be sleeping in. I'm usually up at about 2:30 right about now. No idea why, except that I'm awake and I'm ready to start my day. I have been prompted to get out of my bed. Not by anything, not by any sense of urgency, but more of just an ever-present do the things that you called to do. with a sense of curiosity and ease. Um, you would think well over 30 years of daily meditation that it might turn into a chore, but going into silence is never a chore. Um, there's always that new discovery of self, that new discovery of who I truly am in the absence of all the thoughts of who I think I am, in the absence of everyone's opinion of what I should do and who I should be, in the absence of belief that I've inherited from teachers and media, parents, neighbors, friends. In the absence of all that, you dive into the silence of an early morning meditation and you discover absolutely who you are, and you simply rest at that point. That's why the my favorite image of the Buddha is that half smile on the Buddha's face, that ever-present peacefulness that he discovered when he sat under the Buddha tree and refused to leave, refused to even move until he attained what he was after, which was the means of ending suffering, which is a pretty bold thing to sit under a tree to discover. And that's what he did. And when he emerged, he was awakened. He became the Buddha. Before he was Siddhartha. And the Buddha simply means the awakened one. On his deathbed, he was asked, "Who are you? Are you a god?" And he said, "No." And they said, "Then who are you?" And he said, "I'm awakened." The most amazing thing from the Buddha is him saying, "I'm not a god, I'm just awakened," but him also saying, "And you can be too." That's our potentiality. And because of the Buddha, we don't have to sit under the Buddha tree. He laid out a path that we can follow, the Eightfold Path of Buddhism. Similarity, and for me, the one that resonated the most was the 8 limbs of yoga, path to awakening. Beginning, ending in samadhi, bliss consciousness. All about discovering who you are. And I love that statement, discovering who you are, because that means we're already there. It reminds me of the story of Michelangelo and David, when he was asked, "How did you ever carve David out of that single block of marble?" And his answer was, "David was already in the stone. I simply removed everything that was not David." Always amazing to hear that. So, guys, I think we're done for tonight. Let's see. Oops, I missed a couple comments. Let me get back to them. Elise says, everyone enjoyed the blog post. Thank you, Elise. I appreciate that. And Destiny says, thank you for sharing your blog reading, Eric. You're welcome. Actually, I really, really enjoy it. Odom says, I'm trying to, Destiny. Man, I'm looking forward to seeing a walkabout through your garden from different stages to once it hits that full bloom. Destiny says, Eric, you wake up at 3 a.m. every morning because it's the plan and divine timing of the Creator. God, I know you seek Him to find out what He has for you to do each day. That sums it up perfectly. 100%. I have there it is, a blog post from December 23rd, Brahma Murtra, which is God's hour. which is about an hour and a half before the sun comes up to an hour after. It's the most auspicious period for the performance of any holy deed, is what I wrote. Um, so yeah, I agree with Destiny. It's everyone's given a wake up call to experience God's hour, the Brahma hour, the hour of Brahma. Um, but most of us ignore it. Maybe I'll read this tomorrow, or maybe I'll read it tonight, and then we'll call it a night. I'll do one more little reading. Elise says, these few days joining your live has been very rewarding and such wonderful people in the chat. Man, I am blessed with good friends here who offer me so much inspiration. Destiny says, Odom, you will succeed in your garden and will reap an abundance. That is your purpose and calling. You are doing great. Wise words from Destiny. I talk about Dharma quite a bit. Dharma being sort of loosely translated as our purpose, but it's greater than a purpose. It's an expression of who we are. And Odom is the perfect example when he's in his garden. That's his Dharma. That's doing, as Destiny would say, exactly what he's supposed to be doing. Destiny said, Eric, check your community tag for a tagged in for me. I will do that before bed for sure. And like I said, I have one already, Life is Beautiful, and 2 other forms of fasting, Walks in the Wood and Fasting from People. I have that queued up, so I will definitely be checking out the others as well. Looking forward to them. Again, that's going to be my morning information. I long ago, for the most part, at least first thing in the morning, abandoned watching news because it is it bogs you down in a lot of the troubles of the world. Not that you should ignore the troubles of the world, but that first thing in the morning is a very impressionable time. And I would rather spend those hours, or at least the hour that I will be at my desk, I'd rather spend it with Destiny Forever Walks PhD playing and inspiring and giving me some useful information. Destiny says, I sent 3 tag videos. So let's see. Make sure I have everything up.
From the moment that I wake up.
Do you recognize that? All right. I got them all saved. Your most recent video on fasting. And Eric, here's another old fasting video that I did. This one really sounds good. The spirituality behind fasting. Awesome. So thank you, Destiny. Again, I look forward to all of them. Destiny says, thanks everyone for coming. And please don't leave without leaving your thumbprint on the like button. Blessings and love. Thank you. And Destiny says, I do. And Elise says as well. So, all right, guys, we'll leave off with one additional reading. I'll save it for tomorrow. We'll say goodnight for now. I'm going to do my breath work. Um, as mentioned before, it's part of my sleep hygiene. And what I normally do, not always, you breathe in through the nose for a count of four. It's a count of four. It's not necessarily 4 seconds. So you breathe in for a count of four, nice and steady. I use the Vishna mudra. Technically, the fingers should be back. My fingers don't stay back. Don't worry about it. You seal off the right side. You exhale through the nose, through the left side. The left side is the side that corresponds with the parasympathetic nervous state for rest and relaxation, for rest and digest. And I breathe out for a count of 8. You extend the exhale, doubling the time of the inhale, and very powerful breath. Lowers the heart rate, puts us into that parasympathetic nervous state to allow us to rest and digest, um, and lowers the blood pressure as well. Great way to go to sleep. Great way to prepare to help shut down the mind to go to sleep. You do it with your eyes closed, and it becomes part of that fifth limb of yoga of withdrawing the senses from the world, which is very important going to bed because a lot of times we lay down and we take the world with us. We close our eyes and the entire day keeps flashing through our mind. More than that, sometimes the entire week or month or even a year. For some, a lifetime. All the troubles, constantly replaying. Turn within, forget the outer world just for a bit. Cultivate that inner world. You can do that by breath, and then when you lay your head down, you're ready for sleep. So, um, Destiny says, thanks again, Eric, and everyone in the chat. It was a good reading. Thank you. I appreciate that. And Destiny says, nice to see you again, Elise, and good night. Everyone have a good night. I'll be back. We'll be doing some burpees tomorrow. And Destiny, thank you again. I really look forward to reading them. Odom, thank you for coming in tonight. Stuart as well. I appreciate you being here. And Elise, as always, I'm really excited on what is about to unfold for Elise. So, again, thanks everyone. Take care.